Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. Today we are looking at the December 2nd CISO Daily Update. This thing is basically like a cheat sheet to all the latest cybersecurity happenings, from financial scams all the way to like international espionage, wild stuff. You might be thinking cybersecurity, that's for the techies, but honestly, it touches all of us.
Yeah, it really does.
When you think about it, online banking, social media, pretty much anything you do online has some element of risk to it.
Absolutely.
Let's get into it.
In today's hyper-connected world, everyone is a potential target, which makes staying informed all the more crucial.
Okay, so let's start with financial threats. Always a hot topic. Apparently, hackers are cleaning up, stealing millions from EBT accounts across the U.S.
Oh, wow.
What's really unsettling is they're targeting some of the most vulnerable people in our society.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a multi-pronged attack that's particularly insidious. On the one hand, they're using physical skimming devices attached to card readers, much like we've seen at ATMs, to steal card information and PINs.
Yeah. Oh, wow, so they're going old school.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But simultaneously, they're also exploiting vulnerabilities in the third-party vendors that actually process those EBT transactions to gain access to things like Social Security numbers, creating a recipe for extensive identity theft.
It's crazy. They're combining the old school tactics with like these digital exploits. So what can people do to protect themselves?
Well, chip-enabled EBT cards, like the ones that Alabama's rolling out, will certainly help. But in the meantime, it's critical to strengthen those PNs and utilize any card locking features that your bank provides.
Good advice. It's a reminder that no matter how secure your accounts seem, there's always some level of risk. Speaking of financial threats, disguised as seemingly helpful services, there's this SpyLoan Android malware that's making the rounds.
Yes, SpyLoan. Textbook case of social engineering paired with the technological exploitation. Think about it. Over 8 million downloads of malicious Android apps disguised as loan services.
8 million. That is a staggering number. How do these apps actually work? What happens when someone downloads one of these?
Well, these apps, cleverly disguised and marketed, they request access to seemingly innocuous things, your contacts call logs, even SMS messages.
Right.
What users don't realize is they're handing over their entire digital life to these criminals.
Wow.
And once they have that information, the extortion begins, harassing victims and threatening to expose their personal information unless they pay up.
So it's financial exploitation from a different angle, but equally devastating. It's particularly alarming how they target specific regions like South America, Southeast Asia, and Africa.
Yeah, it appears they tailor the app's language and marketing to appeal to those communities, often preying on people in vulnerable financial situations, desperate for a loan.
Right.
It's a stark reminder that cybercriminals exploit both technological weaknesses and human psychology.
Right.
You really need to be vigilant on both fronts.
You're right. A healthy dose of skepticism is crucial. Anything that seems too good to be true probably is. Now, let's shift gears to a topic that hits close to home for many of us. Phishing attacks. This new platform called Rockstar 2FA caught my eye.
Oh yeah, Rockstar 2FA. This illustrates how cybercriminals are constantly innovating. To sidestep our security measures, this phishing as a service platform essentially allows anyone, regardless of technical skill, to launch sophisticated phishing attacks, primarily targeting Microsoft 365 accounts, email cloud storage, the works.
So basically anyone can become a cyber criminal with this tool. That's troubling. And they're going after Microsoft 365 accounts. Talk about a broad reach.
Yeah. The danger of Rockstar 2FA lies in its capacity to circumvent multi-factor authentication, which many consider a gold standard in security.
But wait, isn't multi-factor authentication with those codes they send to your phone supposed to be pretty darn secure?
It certainly enhances security, but it's not impervious. Rockstar 2FA utilizes a tactic known as an adversary-in-the-middle attack to bypass it.
Okay, break that down for me. How does that actually work?
Picture this. You're logging into your Microsoft account, entering your username and password. However, instead of landing on Microsoft servers, you're unknowingly diverted to a server controlled by the attacker, a convincingly disguised fake web page.
So it's like a digital con artist, intercepting your information before it reaches its destination.
Precisely.
Right.
You unwittingly hand over your credentials, the attacker swipes them, then seamlessly relays that information to the actual Microsoft servers to log you in, all the while capturing session cookies, allowing them to retain access even after you've logged out.
So they're like a digital ghost in the machine. How do they make these fake login pages so convincing?
Well, Rockstar 2FA makes it alarmingly easy for criminals to construct these deceptive login pages. It boasts features like randomized source code to evade detection, Cloudflare integration for quicker loading and better disguise, and a user-friendly admin panel for managing their attacks. It's almost like they're running a legitimate business, except their business is stealing your information.
It's disturbingly efficient and clearly effective, with over 5,000 phishing domains established using Rockstar 2FA since May 2024.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. What's this about corrupted Word documents? I mean, who opens a corrupted file? You'd be surprised. It's a surprisingly effective, albeit unconventional method. Attackers send emails containing intentionally corrupted Word document attachments. Now, most security software would rightfully flag these as suspicious and block them. But Microsoft Word has this built-in feature that tries to recover damaged files.
So you open the file thinking Word will fix it, and bam, you've been hit.
Exactly. The corrupted file acts as a Trojan horse, concealing malicious code that executes during the recovery attempt.
Wow, that is sneaky.
To make matters worse, these emails often masquerade as payroll or HR communications. Subject lines like important payroll update or urgent HR notice, playing on our natural anxieties about our jobs.
Yeah, right. It's incredible how they exploit our natural inclinations and trust. So what are your thoughts on these increasingly complex phishing techniques? I mean, they seem to be getting more sophisticated and harder to detect.
It underscores a fundamental truth about cybersecurity. Human psychology remains a significant vulnerability. Why waste hours trying to hack a system when you can simply trick someone into surrendering their credentials? And as our defenses improve, so do the attackers' methods, creating this constant arms race.
So it's as much about educating people as it is about building stronger systems.
Absolutely.
All right, let's delve into data breaches, starting with a bit of a mystery surrounding a company called Smart IT Partner. Their database has reportedly been leaked online, and details are scarce.
Yeah, while information is limited, the fact that their database is now freely accessible online is certainly cause for concern, depending on the nature of their business. This could include anything from customer contact information to financial records and proprietary business data.
The potential impact is huge, both for the company and for individuals whose data was compromised. And what's even more unsettling is the lack of official statements from the company or law enforcement.
Yeah, their silence only amplifies the uncertainty. It's possible they're still trying to grasp the extent of the breach, pinpoint the vulnerabilities, or perhaps they're engaged in negotiations with the attackers to prevent further data leaks. We can only speculate at this point.
This highlights that data breaches can happen to anyone, even large, seemingly secure organizations. And while we await more information on that, let's pivot to a case with a bit more intrigue. The sentencing of a U.S. citizen, Ping Li, for espionage.
This case of insider threat exposes the complexities of international espionage in our digital age. Originally from China, held positions at Verizon and Infosys. Seemingly ordinary jobs,
Right.
however, beneath the surface, he was amassing sensitive information, funneling it to the Chinese Ministry of State Security.
What kind of information was he after?
His targets included data on Chinese dissidents, pro-democracy activists, even U.S.-based NGOs, anyone considered a threat by the Chinese government. He also divulged internal training materials from his employers and details about cybersecurity incidents, including the SolarWinds attack from a few years back.
So he was essentially providing them with valuable insights into both U.S. cybersecurity practices and the activities of individuals they deemed hostile. This raises an important question. What does this case tell us about the nature of insider threats?
It reveals just how difficult it can be to detect and prevent insider threats. These individuals often have legitimate access to sensitive information, making their malicious activities harder to discern.
Right.
It's a stark reminder that vigilance must extend beyond external threats. The danger can also lurk within, even from seemingly trustworthy individuals.
Moving on to vulnerabilities and patches. It seems Microsoft has had its hands full, addressing a slew of critical security flaws. It seems like they're always playing catch-up. What were some of the key vulnerabilities they tackled this time around?
They addressed quite a few across various services, including AI, Cloud ERP, and their partner center, however one stands out. CVE 2024-49035, a privilege escalation flaw in partner.microsoft.com.
Privilege escalation. Okay. For those of us who aren't fluent in cybersecurity jargon, what does that actually mean?
Imagine someone with a basic user account suddenly gaining administrator privileges. They could essentially hijack the entire system.
That's a problem. And what makes this vulnerability particularly concerning is that it was actively being exploited before Microsoft even released the patch.
Yeah, it was a race against time to get that fix out.
Yeah.
Which speaks to the importance of timely patching. Every minute you delay installing those security updates increases your vulnerability.
It's a perpetual cat and mouse game between the attackers and defenders. Speaking of vulnerabilities, the stakes get even higher when we look at critical infrastructure, which relies heavily on industrial control systems, or ICS. We're seeing vulnerabilities pop up in systems from industry giants like Schneider Electric, mySCADA, and automated logic. What makes these systems such appealing targets for attackers?
Well, many ICS are older systems that haven't been updated in years, often lacking the robust security of modern IT systems.
Right.
Couple that with the potentially catastrophic consequences of a successful attack on critical infrastructure, and you have a high-value target. It's a sobering reminder that cybersecurity isn't just about protecting data. It's about protecting the essential services that underpin our daily lives.
Absolutely. Okay, moving on. It seems like Zyxel firewalls are having a rough go of it lately, becoming a prime target for the held-down ransomware group. What's the story there?
Zyxel firewalls are being exploited through a vulnerability known as CVE 2024-1167T. This flaw allows attackers to remotely execute code on the firewall, granting them complete control.
So they can essentially turn the firewall, which is supposed to be a protective barrier, into a weapon against the network itself?
Precisely.
Wow.
Once inside, they can steal data, infect other devices, even cripple critical systems, and in this case. They're using that access to deploy held-down ransomware, encrypting data and demanding a ransom for its release.
So it's a double whammy. First, exploiting the vulnerability, then hitting them with ransomware. What's fascinating here is the layering of these attacks. It's not just one exploit. It's a carefully orchestrated sequence of events.
Indeed. This highlights the importance of keeping your firewall software up to date. Zyxel has released a patch for this vulnerability, so anyone using their firewalls should install it immediately. Speaking of crucial updates, there's another vulnerability we should discuss. CVE 2024-42327 in Zabbix, a widely used open-source platform for monitoring IT infrastructure.
Okay, so Zabbix is a big deal in the IT world, used by organizations of all sizes. What makes this particular vulnerability so concerning?
It's a critical SQL injection vulnerability with a CDSS score of 9.9, which means it's incredibly easy to exploit and could have catastrophic consequences.
I know a CVSS score of 9.9 is bad, but can you break down what that means in practical terms?
Think of it like this. The CDSS, or Common Vulnerability Scoring System, measures a vulnerability severity on a scale of 0 to 10. A 9.9 indicates this vulnerability is practically a hacker's dream, easily exploitable and potentially devastating in this case. It allows attackers to inject malicious code into Zabbix's database queries, enabling them to steal data-modified system settings, or even seize control of the entire Zabbix server.
So like giving the keys to the kingdom to someone who shouldn't have them.
Exactly.
And what's even more troubling is that this vulnerability can be exploited by non-admin users, right?
Unfortunately, yes. Anyone with API access to the Zabbix server could potentially exploit it, significantly broadening the threat. The good news is that Zabbix has released patched versions, 6.4.16 RC1 and 7.0.0 RC3. Updating to the latest version immediately is crucial for anyone using Zabbix. It's another reminder that staying on top of security updates is fundamental to good cybersecurity hygiene.
Okay, let's move on to the final and perhaps most intriguing topic, the rise of AI in cybercrime. Reports suggest that cybercriminals are increasingly using AI-powered tools to enhance their ransomware attacks.
Yeah, this isn't surprising. AI is evolving rapidly, and criminals are always looking for ways to weaponize emerging technologies. Just as security professionals are using AI to bolster threat detection and response, attackers are using it to make their attacks more potent and elusive.
So how are they incorporating AI into ransomware attacks?
One way is by automating the process of identifying and exploiting vulnerabilities, allowing them to scan vast numbers of systems quickly and pinpoint the weakest links. They're also using AI to craft more convincing phishing emails and social engineering attacks, making it easier to manipulate victims.
So they're essentially using AI to do the grunt work, enabling them to launch attacks on a larger scale. What are your thoughts on the use of AI by cybercriminals?
It's a fascinating, albeit unsettling development. The integration of AI in cybercrime is still in its early stages, but it has the potential to significantly reshape the balance of power between attackers and defenders.
So something we definitely need to keep a close eye on. What else stood out to you from this report on AI and ransomware?
What's interesting is the report's emphasis on the role geopolitical conflicts, like the Russia-Ukraine war and the Israel-Hamas conflict, play in fueling these attacks.
Oh, wow.
We often perceive cybercrime as purely financially driven, but there's often a political or ideological element as well.
So it's not just about making money. It's about wielding cyber attacks as a weapon in these conflicts.
Exactly. And the report highlights that the U.S. remains a primary target, accounting for 41% of all detected ransomware attacks.
That's not entirely surprising given our position as a major economic and political power.
It underscores the need for increased vigilance and investment in cybersecurity, both at the national level and for individual businesses and organizations. We need to recognize that the cyber threat landscape is constantly evolving and be prepared for whatever comes next.
Absolutely. It's not just about reacting to attacks, but about proactively mitigating risks before they can be exploited.
Exactly.
All right, well, we've covered a lot of ground today. Let's take a break and come back to unpack some potential implications of these trends and explore what the future of cybersecurity might hold.
Welcome back. It's remarkable how these cybersecurity threats, while diverse, are all interconnected, forming this complex web that we all navigate daily.
It really does feel like we're all caught in like a giant digital spider web sometimes. But before we get too tangled up in the details, let's step back and consider some key takeaways. What are the most important things you want our listeners to remember?
Well, the sheer breadth of these threats is a critical takeaway. We've gone from financial scams targeting individuals all the way to sophisticated espionage operations and attacks on critical infrastructure. It really drives home the point that cybersecurity isn't just a tech issue, it's a societal issue that impacts all of us.
Absolutely. We're talking about protecting livelihoods, privacy, and even national security. It's a lot bigger than just keeping our devices safe. Another takeaway that really resonated with me is the increasing sophistication of these attacks. It seems like the days of simple viruses and spam emails are long gone. These attackers are using advanced techniques like AI and social engineering to make their attacks more effective and harder to spot.
You're right. That SpyLoan malware is a prime example. Those fake loan apps were carefully designed to exploit people's anxieties and vulnerabilities, highlighting the importance of being aware of how human psychology plays into these attacks.
Right?
And then you have the Rockstar 2FA phishing platform, demonstrating how criminals are constantly innovating to sidestep security measures. Even multi-factor authentication, which many consider a pretty robust defense, isn't foolproof.
Okay, so we need to be smarter than the average cybercriminal. What can our listener do to stay ahead of the curve?
Well, awareness is key. We need to cultivate a healthy skepticism, especially online. If something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Be cautious about clicking links or opening attachments from senders you don't recognize. And always keep your software updated. Those security patches are your first line of defense.
Great advice. And it's important to remember that even large, well-established companies like Microsoft and Zyxel are constantly struggling to keep up with the attackers. No one is immune to these threats.
Exactly. Cybersecurity is an ongoing battle, and we all play a part in defending ourselves. It's not just up to the experts. It's a collective responsibility. Now let's shift gears a bit and look at the bigger picture. If we connect these trends, what are some potential implications for the future of cybersecurity? What's on the horizon?
I'm a little nervous to ask, but lay it on me. What keeps you up at night?
Well, as AI becomes more powerful and readily available, I think we're going to see a significant increase in the use of AI-powered attacks. Imagine more sophisticated and targeted attacks, making it incredibly difficult for defenders to stay ahead.
AI versus AI, that's a battle I'm not sure I want to witness. What else?
Another implication I see is a blurring of the lines between traditional cybercrime and nation-state activity, as we saw with the Ping Li case, and the rise of hacktivist groups. Cyber attacks are increasingly being used as tools of political influence and espionage.
So it's getting harder to distinguish between criminals motivated by profit and those driven by political agendas.
Precisely. This makes attribution and response more complex. Who do you hold accountable when a cyber attack originates from a country known for state-sponsored hacking? These are the geopolitical challenges we'll continue to face in the years to come.
Right.
And as if that's not enough to worry about, critical infrastructure is becoming increasingly vulnerable. It's pretty unsettling to think about the consequences if attackers successfully disrupt our power grid or water supply.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's a stark reminder of the potential for disruption and the need for greater investment in the cybersecurity of critical infrastructure, Many of these systems were designed without security in mind, and they're struggling to adapt to the evolving threat landscape. Modernization and resilience need to be top priorities.
All of this makes me wonder how the increasing use of AI in cybercrime will impact the average person. Will it make them more vulnerable to attacks? Or will AI-powered security tools eventually level the playing field?
It's a great question, and there are no easy answers. On the one hand, AI-powered attacks could make it easier for criminals to exploit vulnerabilities, putting more people at risk, especially those who lack the technical expertise to protect themselves.
Right. It's almost like they need a personal cybersecurity expert on call 247. Is that even possible?
Might not be as far-fetched as you think. On the other hand, AI-powered security tools are being developed that could make it much easier for individuals to protect themselves. Imagine a personal AI assistant constantly monitoring your online activity, flagging suspicious emails, and alerting you to potential threats in real time.
That would be a game changer, almost like having your own personal cybersecurity bodyguard. But realistically, how accessible are these tools going to be?
That's a valid concern. The challenge will be to make these AI-powered security tools affordable and user-friendly for everyone. Cybersecurity shouldn't be a luxury. It's a fundamental necessity in today's world.
Well, this conversation has definitely been a wake-up call for me. I'm suddenly feeling very motivated to update my passwords and double-check my security settings.
That's always a good idea. And remember, enabling two-factor authentication wherever possible adds an extra layer of protection. It's a simple step with a significant impact.
Okay, I'm on it. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, exploring some fascinating and, frankly, pretty unsettling trends in cybersecurity. Any final thoughts before we wrap things up?
What strikes me is this constant tension between innovation and security. Every technological advancement creates opportunities for both progress and exploitation. We're in this continuous race to outsmart the bad guys, and the finish line keeps moving.
It's like we're running on a digital treadmill, but the speed keeps increasing.
That's a great analogy. And as the pace quickens,
Right.
we need to make sure we're not just running in place. We need to move forward strategically, developing new technologies and strategies to protect ourselves and build a more secure digital future.
So it's about being proactive and innovative, not just reactive.
Absolutely. We can't simply wait for the next attack. We need to anticipate threats and build defenses before they materialize.
Yeah, it's a balancing act for sure. Embracing all the awesome stuff technology can do, but also staying one step ahead of the bad guys. But you're right, just focusing on all the scary stuff isn't really helpful. There's a ton of innovation happening in cybersecurity too. What are some of the things that give you hope for the future?
Well, one area where we're seeing real progress is in threat intelligence. Companies and organizations are sharing information about attacks much more openly these days, creating this kind of collective defense against cybercrime. It's like a neighborhood watch for the digital world.
I like that. A neighborhood watch. Strength in numbers,
Yeah.
right? Especially when you're up against an enemy as adaptable and persistent as these cybercriminals. What other bright spots are you seeing?
We're also seeing some big breakthroughs in machine learning and behavioral analytics. These technologies can actually identify and stop attacks in real time, adding this extra layer of protection that's getting more sophisticated all the time.
Okay, that's reassuring. So it sounds like the good guys are gaining some ground. But for those of us who aren't, cybersecurity experts, what can we actually do to protect ourselves?
Well, it's important to remember that most cyber attacks are totally preventable by taking some basic precautions like using strong passwords, enabling two-factor authentication, and learning how to spot phishing attempts. We can seriously reduce our risk.
You're right. It's about being proactive, taking ownership of our own cybersecurity. We can't just rely on technology to save us. We got to be informed and engaged.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power, especially in the digital world. The more we understand about the threats and how to protect ourselves, the better equipped we'll be to navigate the online world.
So what's the big takeaway here? What do you want our listener to walk away with today?
Cybersecurity is a journey, not a destination. It's all about learning, adapting, and evolving as the threat landscape changes.
Yeah.
Embrace that journey, stay curious, and equip yourself with the knowledge and tools to stay safe. And remember, you don't have to be a tech whiz to be cyber aware. There are a ton of resources out there to help you along the way.
That's a great point. It's not just for the experts, it's for everyone. It's about taking responsibility for our digital lives and making informed choices.
Exactly. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and stay safe.
Great advice. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of cybersecurity. Until next time, stay safe and keep learning.